Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to look at the hopper and the various properties of hoppers. And I'm in snapshot 13.5b at the moment. So I'm hoping some of the behaviors of the hoppers will be fixed in future updates, but for now I think most of what I'm going to show you will stay consistent. First of all, hoppers can be installed in two different configurations, basically, either from the side or from the top. And to install it, you just hold down the shift. And well, when you want to go to another hopper, you hold down the shift. But if you just go into a regular block, you just click on the block. But if you're trying to attach it to a chest or a dispenser, you have to hold down the shift. So you have to sneak to attach it to the proper area, or if you want to do it on the top, like so. Pretty basic knowledge. The hoppers will work with any item pretty much that has a inventory. You can place items into these various containers from the top, or you can remove items from these containers if you have the hopper below. The two that are slightly different are the furnaces and the brewing stands. In this case, it depends on where you attach the hopper as to what happens. If you add items in the top, that's going to be the ore. Excuse me. I believe. Let me make sure. So if we add ore in there, it will put it in the ore slot. And if you put fuel coming in from the side, the front, or the back, it will it'll put it in the appropriate spot, and it will start smelting your items. And the items will immediately be taken out if you have a hopper coming out from the bottom. And the brewing stands, they work the same, except that unfortunately they will take any. If you place a bottle in the let's see here, get some water bottles here. If I place a water bottle in from the side, it will immediately, if you have this unpowered, it will immediately remove it even though it's not done brewing. So I had it powered before, so it kept it in the brewing stand, but when you have it unpowered, it will immediately take it away. It won't wait for it to finish brewing. So hopefully that'll get fixed. And then what I have set up here is a bunch of different scenarios of things that you can place on top of hoppers and on the side. You can any type of rail you can place on the top, and these are things that you might not think would work, but actually do. You can place redstone dust on top, torches, levers, repeaters, comparators. Any of the pressure plates will go on top. The sunlight detector will. You can even put doors on top for some reason. And as far as things you can attach to the side, you can attach signs and the frames and the pictures. But here's something odd. You can't do ladders, and you can't directly, whoops, damn it, I wanted to keep that. You can't directly do vines, but as you can see, they seem to be able to grow down on top of them, so that's interesting. You cannot put trapdoors directly onto a hopper, or tripwires or buttons onto the hoppers from the side, and that, or the top, which is obvious, and you can't do torches and levers on the side either. So let's look at the way that redstone interacts with the hoppers. If you try to power a hopper, it doesn't act like a normal block where it transmits power through. If you power or unpower the top of it, it won't send power through. But you can send power over the top of a hopper and off. And you can send power to a hopper and it will go on top and above. And this is the same behavior that glowstone does and some of the other quote-unquote transparent blocks. So it acts similarly to what you may have used glowstone for in the past. So that's an interesting feature that might work for some designs. When you place items in a hopper, it chooses which way to go, and it actually, if you have it in this configuration, it'll take half of them to go below and half of them to the right. Even though the hopper is pointing to the right, you still will get half the items going down. It doesn't really differentiate between which way it's pointing in this configuration. It will split them up and go either way. So let's look at locking and unlocking the hoppers, or powering and unpowering them, and see what behavior that generates. If we put items in the first hopper and we lock it, if we power it, it will stop items from leaving that hopper. And similarly, if you lock the second one, it will stop items from leaving it, but it will accept items from the previous one. So it seems to only lock the output. If you have one at the end of the line and lock it, it doesn't really affect the behavior because it's still letting items into it, and there's nowhere for it to go. And then let's see here, get this back, and then I think I showed this already, but if you lock the first one, it won't let items out. So that's consistent. And then as far as ways to power the hoppers, there's many ways to do it. You can have torches on the sides. These will all lock the hopper. You can put a lever directly on top of one of the hoppers and lock it to keep items from flowing through, and you can use redstone. And any of these blocks that you power, apply power to, they will power the hopper in turn and stop items from flowing out of it, and so will redstone blocks. Now let's look at the behavior of the vertical hopper stack, and this is kind of weird. Let's put items in the top here. If we lock that one, nothing seems to happen. If I had in the previous example where they were horizontal, if I locked that first one, it would stop items from flowing out, but not in the vertical case. It's still letting items out. If I lock the second hopper in line, it will stop items from coming out of that first hopper. It won't let any items into the second hopper. If I remove the lock on the first one, items will flow out of there. They are flowing through this one, though you can't see them. You can see it on that one. So locking, put some items back in there. So locking a single hopper in a vertical line does nothing. It's kind of strange behavior, but if you lock two in a row, it will lock the items into that first locked hopper. So the items are flowing down, they encounter two successively locked hoppers, it will stop the items in the first hopper. But if you have alternately locked and unlocked hoppers, let's see, let's do it this way. Get rid of that, and let me grab some more items and put them in the top. If you have alternately locked hoppers, nothing happens, they just flow right through. So that's odd behavior, but it might be useful in some situations. Let's look at it horizontally again. If I put items in the, let's lock the first one. So if I put items in the first hopper, it's locked and it's not letting items out, unlike the vertical. If I lock the second hopper and unlock the first, they flow into the second hopper. And if I unlock that one and lock this one, they flow through. If I do alternate ones, they stop at each one that's locked. So that's I don't know, I wouldn't say completely different behavior than the vertical, but it's certainly different. So that's important to know. If you have a vertical stack of hoppers and one of the hoppers is pointing to the side, the behavior changes again. So let's grab some cobblestone. If I lock the top hopper from the previous example, it should flow right through, and it does. It flows all the way through to the bottom, but if I unlock that one and lock the second one, then the items are captured, or they're not even, wait, are they? They're still going through. Let me just start this over. Alright, so we've locked the second one in line, and it's still letting items through. But, oops, if we lock that one and unlock this one, that's what I was trying to get at. So let me make sure that's different than the previous behavior. So we have locked the bottom hopper, and the items have stopped in the second hopper. So let's do the same thing here. The bottom is locked. I'll grab the items out of here, and I'll put it in this hopper. And here the items go straight through. Okay, so that's different. So here the items go straight down. Here we have the same locked hopper situation, but one of them turned to the side. The items will get caught in it's unlocked, but it's the hopper above the locked hopper, the one that's turned to the side. So that is good to know as well. Here we have two hoppers trying to feed each other. If you have one powered and one unpowered, the items will migrate to the side that is powered. If I change that, then they all flow over this way. If I have both hoppers powered, it kind of freezes them in place, and if I have them both unpowered, they kind of, it doesn't really show it, but here they're kind of going back and forth. Let me see if I can, it depends on how the chunk is loaded, but they're kind of flowing back and forth, and it just doesn't have time to accumulate. So wish it would show it. Sometimes it shows it. I think it has to do with the timing of the hoppers and the various placement you have. Let me try to break that and see if that does it. This should do the trick. There it goes. See, now it's you can see it's flowing back and forth. But if I reloaded this world again, it would go back to that other behavior, just looking like it's stagnant. Alright, let's take a look at this setup here. I've got a row of repeaters set on 3 and a row set on 2, and let's time how long it takes for one item to get to the end of the row. So when I release the lever, the item will flow out through the pipeline and the redstone signal will flow down, and let's see what wins. So that one was pretty close to almost a tie. Try it one more time and see how that works. Pretty close to a tie. So that was different than I was experimenting when I made this world in a previous snapshot. So I'm going to switch over to that one and see what's different. Stand by. Alright, I've switched back to 13W04A, and I'm going to run this experiment again and see if it's different. So you can see the item and the row of repeaters set on 2 tied. So in that run, the item seemed to travel at 2 ticks per hopper. And let's run that one more time just to be sure. Better turn that off first. And I'll run it again. It's pretty close to being a tie, but let's try something. Let's try deleting all of those guys. And reinstalling the hoppers. And and see if that affects the behavior. Isn't that odd? So by reinstalling the hoppers, it changes the rate of flow between hoppers. And I think this has something to do with something I'll mention shortly, but that is certainly strange. So I'm going to switch back to the current snapshot and see how this changes stuff. Alright, I'm back in 13W5B, the current snapshot. So let's see if destroying and rebuilding this line of hoppers adjusts the behavior in a similar fashion as it did in the previous snapshot. I have a feeling it will, but let's double check. So I'll turn that off. We'll put an item in here. Yeah, so definitely by removing and adding the hoppers, it does something with the speed of the flow. But like I said, I have a feeling it's going to be consistent when you load and reload the chunk. So that's, I wish that was consistent. So we'll look at, like I said, we'll look at another reason why that is in a second here. Now, comparators will interact with hoppers like all the other inventory blocks, and the amount of items that are in the hoppers will determine the output strength of the redstone signal. So if you have a hopper with all 5 slots full, it will output a signal strength of 15, and if you move the items out of the hopper, it will reduce that strength to 0 when it's empty. And that'll go much slower if you had full stacks of 64 in each one. Now here's something I showed in a previous video, but I'll show it again in this one. The behavior of hoppers as far as hopper sorting machines and the like, it depends on when you place the hopper, and then when you save and reload the world, it kind of goes back to a default. So if, I'll show you what I mean here. If I put a stack of items in the first hopper here, you can see that these particular comparators are lit up, and that's, you can see an item in there and you can see no item in here, even though items are flowing through. So any item, any hopper that has a consistent item in there is coming up as a solid signal, and any one that doesn't show up in there, even though it's flowing through, is not powered. Now what happens if I destroy all these and replace them? And then send items through. You can see that that has completely changed the behavior. Some of them are solid, or almost solid. Some of them are flickering very slowly. And let's try that again. So this one here, it's a pretty consistent flicker. This one's rather intermittent. This one's pretty consistent. This one's almost always on, but you can see all of them are very inconsistent in how they work. Now let's save the world and re-log in and see what happens. So you can see that immediately something different happened, but let's go ahead and empty these and see if that gets us back to the original pattern. So let's see what happens now. There it is again. So each time you reload and unload the world, it will kind of send these back to a default state of either quote-unquote working like so, or not working. So if you had an item sorting machine, these hoppers here would let items fall through, and these items, or these hoppers here, would bypass the hopper below and it would not sort your items. So that is unfortunate behavior that I hope they will fix soon. But as you may have seen in the other videos, if not, check them out. I showed that there is a pattern that develops like so, and it's consistent each time. So if you are able to find an area that has a dense amount of working comparators, like this one here, let's go ahead and put some items in it. You could use this area here as an item sorting machine, and it would work properly each time you unloaded and reloaded the world or the chunk. So that is useful to know. Now, as far as how you can predict where these areas of dense hopper working hoppers are, is I have no idea how to do that as far as the coordinates go. I mean, I'm sure there's some way to mathematically figure it out, but what you can do, and I showed this also in a previous video, is you can build in a random spot, and by figuring out the pattern, which ones are working, which ones are not, and then removing the hoppers that do not work, you can make a 100% accurate item sorting machine that is not broken by loading and reloading, as this one is. So check that out. And anyway, that's the behavior of hoppers. So I may update this if they change some things in the newer snapshots or the redstone release coming up. And if you see anything that I've missed, please let me know in the comments, and I will address that. So thanks for watching, guys. See ya.